Good evening and welcome to September 18th Common Council, City Connersville. All rise for the Pledge of Allegiance led by Tommy Williams, Jr.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please remain standing for the invocation.
I'd like to share a scripture from the Old Testament, Psalms 9 through 10. The Lord is a refuge for the oppressed, a stronghold in times of trouble. Those who know your name will trust in you, for you, Lord, have never forsaken those who seek you. Let us seek the Lord together. Father God, I thank you for who you are, our Creator and Lord. I praise you and give you honor before all the people. And now I lift up our city leaders and give you thanks for each of them. I ask you to grant them discernment and open hearts to the leading of your Holy Spirit, so that decisions that are rendered will have a positive effect on our future, and that biblical principles might prevail in the public square and throughout the halls of city government. Protect their families as they serve our community, and may we all realize the importance of their civic duties by praying for them often. In the name of Jesus Christ, amen.
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 Thank you, sir. Okay, I'd like to welcome everyone this evening. Please remind you to turn your cell phone ringers off. We'll begin with roll call.
Councilman Rowe.
Here.
Councilman Gray.
Here.
Councilman Collins. Here. Councilman Warner.
Here.
Councilman Barrett. Councilman Williams Jr.
Present.
Councilwoman Phillips.
Present.
Okay, everyone has the minutes from the September 5th, 2023 regular meeting. Are there any additions or corrections to those? If not, entertain a motion to approve the minutes.
So moved.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign. Move on down to new business. We have the first reading for the 2024 budget. Adam, welcome out for presentation, sir.
Good evening, good to see you all. And then just kind of let you know when to advance, right, John? Yes. Okay, cool. Good evening, it's good to see everybody. I hope you're all having a good start to your week. I know a lot of people at budget season, you know, they're like, oh, this is what gets me up in the morning. So I actually get quite excited about this time, and for all of us, you know, clerk treasurer and department heads and staff, there's been a lot of time behind the scenes put into this point. So excited to present this publicly tonight and do my best to try to summarize hundreds of different line items. So this is intended to be an overview. What we're going to try to cover, but my understanding is in your packets. You have printed copies of the worksheets. And then we have been trying to provide both to the budget committee and then ahead of time the kind of exposure drafts as we go. To my knowledge, there has been no edits since the September 7th packet that went out. I think everything largely is the same that you've received from there. And this presentation, if I stay on track, will be approximately about 20 minutes. If I know that you have a lot of other items on your agenda, so I'll try to keep it moving. But if you have any questions, I'm here for you, okay? So for those of you that heard my recording, I'm gonna kind of go through that same sort of cadence, but certainly stop me if you have any questions, okay? We'll go ahead and, next slide, please. Cool. So a couple different things. We're gonna talk through the adoption timeline and kind of where we go from here. We'll look at the levy growth appeal that's factored into these numbers. We'll talk about the proposed debt levy for the public safety expenditures, and then we'll go through kind of a high-level overview of the main changes that's in the budget as well. Next slide, please. There we go. Okay. There's a lot on here. You really don't need to read all that. The last two or three at the bottom are the most important aspects. So this just shows you kind of what has all occurred up to this evening. So tonight is the public hearing and introduction, first reading, and then welcome to take any questions or everything you have now, but ultimately final vote is at the next council meeting. We've published the Form 3, the notice to taxpayers on this hearing tonight. They were appropriately noticed 10 days prior. And then ultimately, if the council adopts a budget at the next meeting, that would be sent to the state of Indiana through Gateway, and ultimately then would inform the tax rates and charges for next year. And if the council approves the levy appeal, growth appeal, that resolution has to be adopted by October 19th and submitted to the state as well. Next slide, please. Okay, a little bit of Budget 101, just because it'll influence a lot that is talked about, and not sure, I'm assuming all the council members know this, but for anyone in the public that this may be beneficial to, the city's tax rate is actually a calculated amount, and it's calculated based on what's called the levy divided by the net assessed valuation for the city. So in a scenario where the assessed value is growing higher than the levy, the tax rate actually goes down. In a scenario where the levy is growing faster than the NAV, the tax rate would go up, okay? So it's kind of this seesaw kind of scale situation. And in Connersville, you'll see here in a moment, the last couple years, the assessed value for the city has been growing percentage-wise much faster than the state of Indiana allows the levy to grow at, okay? In 2023, there's actually new legislation where the amount of levy growth that a city or town for that matter can get each year is actually capped at 4%. You grew at 8%, okay, year over year. So in other words, without an appeal or anything like that, your city grew basically twice as fast as the state's allowing your unappealed revenue to grow. So they're basically encouraging units that are in a high growth scenario to pursue this growth appeal if they qualify. Okay, so from my perspective as your budget consultant, we like level tax rates. There's a whole lot of reason for that, and I'm happy to do an education on that, but for simplistic terms, it allows the individual taxpayer's tax bill from what you levy to be exactly the same year over year. So that any changes in tax bill would actually be isolated to assessment changes, not necessarily local budget. Next slide, please. And so this is that specific difference. So the chart, the blue chart over to the left, is that kind of calculation, right? It's looking at the blue is the assessed value growth. The red line is the levy growth, okay? So if I'm going to approach the screen just to kind of make my point here. 2019 through 2023, the assessed value for the city of Connersville grew much faster than the levy. Actually, I'm sorry, between 2019 and 2021, the levy actually grew faster. From 2022 to 2023, the assessed value grew faster than the levy. So in other words, tax rate would fall. And that's exactly what we kind of see happening through here. The challenge is, in a falling tax rate scenario, when you have a community that's growing the rate that Connersville is, it essentially means you have more houses, more businesses to serve with less and less taxing power, which is not a good thing from a public services perspective. When you think about 10, 20 years out in the future, we want to try to maintain at least the same taxing power with the base. So what we're proposing in 2024 is a level tax rate. Okay, so essentially the pay 2023 tax rate for the city of Connersville is $3.35 for every $100 in assessed value, net assessed value. The anticipated pay 24 city of Connersville tax rate, if the budget was adopted as presented, would actually be $3.35 for every $100 in AV. So essentially flat tax rate year over year. Next slide, please, John. So the next thing we're going to look at is what's called the normal max levy. So these are, when we talk about a levy appeal or a 4% levy growth, this is really what we're talking about changing. Okay, so this is the working maximum levy. This is the revenue that is entitled to the city of Connersville. It's kind of the property tax revenue number. And this is for your operating funds, okay? So this would be for aviation, cemetery, motor vehicle highway, parks, and general. So in other words, public safety, administrative functions as well. In 2024, we're anticipating a maximum levy of $12.75 million. This is before circuit breaker. As you've heard me say many times, Connersville has a very high circuit breaker. About 40 cents on every dollar of that number is actually lost to circuit breaker. Okay, but this is the estimated levy. And I would also say for council, as we do multiple budgets together, each year the allocation of this pie chart council can set. Okay, so as the kind of fiduciary and owners of the budget, you can move that around. So my job is to try to get you the biggest pie I possibly can, whether or not you want 2% to airport or 20% to airport is a council year-to-year decision. Okay, the amount of money that you max out at is really a function of how we budget it, and then what the state allows, how you budget within that kind of between streets and parks and public safety. That's your all's local control. Okay. Next slide. And then above that normal maximum levy, there are council elected adjustments to that. And for Connersville, there's really two to consider. One is your cumulative capital development rate. Okay, that's a specific fund that by state statute allows you to at max add an additional 5 cents per $100 in assessed value, an additional tax rate to fund capital expenditures. In around May of this year, council elected to not reestablish that rate. That was the fund that used to pay for the sidewalk ADA repairs. That rate was essentially not reestablished, okay? And that was kept the same, so we left that rate the same in the budget. And then the only other adjustment type is debt service levy, okay? So this is additional levy above the maximum amount you otherwise would get. So in other words, if you had no debt, this revenue doesn't come in. It's not like there's more money to the operating. If you have the debt, it's additional revenue that can be appropriated. Okay. So the total levy with all the adjustments is allocated this way. So about 80 cents on every dollar is in the general fund, followed next by parks at over 10%, streets at 5.4%, and then aviation, cemetery, and others are kind of a de minimis portion. So again, looking high level, the ending reserves, this is the anticipated December 31st, 2024 cash position by council budgeted fund, okay? So, I think these are estimated amounts, and we're estimating these year-end amounts from today, right? So really from July. And this assumes all the budgets for the most part this year are spent, and 100% of the budget next year is spent, okay? And this would be the ending cash position. So you see the general fund well over $2 million. Most importantly, the reserve ratio, which is calculated by the ending cash divided by a fund budget, all are above the minimum recommended amounts of around 15 to 16%. So you have the general fund at 18% and parks at 16%. That's really important to me personally because both of those funds received temporary loans this year to try to maintain their cash flow. Okay, so both funds are projected to be not only balanced but also have an ending reserve sufficient for themselves. Very important. You'll see, kind of as you scan down through there, every fund's positive. So either fund ends with zero cash, which is exactly what we expect. Like for example, a debt service fund, we don't necessarily need to have cash just sitting in that fund. It's intended to be used to pay principal and interest payments. Whereas like a general fund, motor vehicle highway, parks, those funds we absolutely want to see cash reserves because they pay people. They have to make payroll. So depending on, we can't be reliant on if a revenue came in or not. We want to make sure we have the working capital within those funds. And the 15 to 16% is not arbitrary. That's a state of Indiana number. Nationally, the Government Finance Officers Association also requires that, and bondholders require that. 16% works out to be approximately 2 months of a budget, okay? So we want it no less than 2 months of a budget that has payroll to be in cash at any given time. And it's a relatively easy number for you all to track as well. Again, it's just cash divided by the budget for any given department or fund, okay? All right, so going back to the tax rate, we talked about how we're trying to keep it level year over year. You can see that here in this chart. Most importantly, even with the growth appeal and even with the new proposed debt service levy, the actual tax rate per $100 the City of Connersville is proposing in this budget is actually lower than it has been in the past, and considerably lower over the last few years. The fainter blue line is a trend line, so you can actually see year over year the trend has been a steady decrease, and that is really a testament both to the city departments, for the most part, all are spend well within their means and try to use what they've got. But then secondly, in the last couple of years, there's been, which coincided with that big drop, there's been a really notable uptick in the assessed value growth as well. So new investment coming into the community is also helping to drive that tax rate lower. All right. This is the kind of budget at a glance. So there are hundreds of appropriation lines that roll up into these. So in trying to summarize it all into kind of one picture, these are the various different funds that the council adopts a budget for. So this, ignores utility funds and those kind of things. It's just looking at the city council appropriated funds. And I've actually grouped them into kind of 3 different types. We have the levy funds, which is that first kind of 5 or 6. Those are the ones that are, if you remember those pie charts we were looking at, those are the ones that are really kind of share in those core property tax revenues, okay? They're also important because that's where like 99% of your personnel are funded from one of those funds. So I personally look at those a little bit different than I would like a special purpose fund, because when we think about, is it balanced, does it have reserves? A special purpose fund that is just there to pay capital and doesn't have to pay overtime is different than one that's got people associated with it. The second type is the levy adjustment funds. Those are your debt service and cumulative capital funds. And then lastly, we have these kind of like special home rule city-specific funds. So that would be the police continuing education, cable education fund, fire pension, and police pension. A lot of those are like pass-through or special revenue type funds, not property tax related. And most importantly, if we look at the levy funds, we see that the first number you see there is the January 1st, 2024 estimated cash position for each fund, the revenue budget for each fund, the expense budget. So that's all line items, all types of expenses, all departments up to the fund. And then the December 31st, 2024 estimated ending cash position. The net result is revenue minus expense. The net as a percent of revenue is that net result divided by revenue. And then the cash reserve, as we talked about earlier, ending cash divided by budget. Okay, that's how those are computed. Last year when I stood here, we had a long debate. We were actually, we were working through kind of a deficit budget and balance on the general fund, and we were working through all that. Fast forward to today, the city within that budget has worked to try to make those revenues and expenses match. This year, the proposed budget for the general fund is balanced. It's actually got a slight surplus of $2,493, okay? But it's on 13.1 million. So it actually works out to be essentially revenues equal expenses. When we look at it in a percent standpoint, it basically, that 2,400 is a rounding error. It basically goes to zero, okay? And that's what we see essentially across all the main operating funds. You'll see like cemetery and aviation have really small, they have kind of percentage-wise, they look a certain way, but when we look at the net result, we're talking $4,400 and $6,300. And that's assuming they spent every dollar of their budget, what they historically don't always do, okay? So overall, when we look at the levy funds, it's a zero base budget, basically revenues match expenses, and the ending cash reserve across all funds is 23%, or just shy of 90 days working capital. The debt service and CCD funds look good, and then the home rule funds have anticipated spend down of their funds on hand, but you can see the ending cash is all there and all their reserves. They actually have higher reserves anticipated than even the levy funds. Okay, so citywide, the total revenue budget is just shy of $18 million. It's specifically $17,955,340. The largest source of that is property tax revenues, followed by local income tax, and then local permits, fees, those types of things. Expenses, $18,071,053. Largest expense category is labor, followed by services and charges, capital, and then supplies. Okay. Next slide, please. So I know you have all the departmental worksheets. I wanted to give you some just kind of blanket across the board kind of things that are assumptions across all the different departments. The 2024 budget does include a cost of living adjustment for the majority of full-time positions. A lot of the supplies and services line items, you'll see a note that says kind of adjusted for trend or something like that. That trend was based on June 30th, 2023. So for example, if a utility was spending, if it had paid 6 bills up through the end of June, we annualized that amount, and then kind of adjusted, trued up the budget based on what they were spending, right? We updated the budget for fixed obligations, so updated for new lease payments, those kind of things that we had to. And then point 4 is something that I think I want to make clear, is that there's a lot of the department requests, for the most part, are included in these proposals in various different ways, one way or the other. So I think the departments did a great job. Shout out to them for putting up with us through this whole process. It starts in May, and it's a long, lengthy process to tonight. So I appreciate their help. And then, we talked about labor being the largest expense component. Not only do we have just the payroll, but we have all the kind of employee benefits associated. So across the board for civilian positions, we have a pension liability that the city pays of 11.2% of pay. Public safety is 19.1%. And then on average, this varies quite a bit, but on average, citywide, it's about a $33,000 health and benefit contribution per full-time employee proposed. And then the city side of FICA for civilian is 7.65%. The budget includes 4 new full-time positions. So there is the city engineer position that was ultimately proposed last year, was ultimately pulled as part of ways to try to balance last year. So it's a city engineer. It's budgeted assuming a start date of January 1st, and it does assume a 50-50 split cost share with utilities. There's a new community coordinator position added in there, street supervisor, and an assistant park director, which I know Parks Department was pretty excited about. I understand that this budget really looks at the funding of these positions. The salary ordinance, which will come to you at a future date, will really be the positional control and the kind of the salary setting aspect. The budget at this point is just trying to make sure that if those are approved in the salary ordinance, the money's there. Okay. And then the public safety salaries are largely based off their most recent contracts. We factored that in. And then, as previously mentioned on the previous slide, we've adjusted all the other kind of employee by employee specifics based on updated benefits, health insurance elections, and those types of things. And shout out to Clerk Treasurer and her staff for helping us work through that process. And then the item that I have is, for the most part, the budget is incremental, meaning that, unless I'm telling you that a program is suspended or stopped, it assumes that if it's happening today, it's proposed to continue next year. And then so what this slide is trying to do is call out those new specific differences, to try to help pull those things forward, because there are a lot of line items. So the one-times that are being proposed, the biggest aspect is a new replacement to replace fire reserve number 3. I'll defer to Chief on the specifics, but my high-level understanding is this is critical need. This piece of apparatus is 30 years of age, and it's also about a 3-year waiting list. So if this fall the city were to put in a purchase order for this new truck, the time it gets these are custom built. The time they get built and delivered, 2 to 3 years out. So that truck would need to go into 33 years of service just in order to be fully replaced. And they're not inexpensive. We're estimating anywhere between $900 and $1.2 million. The chief might be able to provide more specific quotes into it, but from a budget perspective, that's what we're estimating. And then we've got some additional police and potential capital or parks capital equipment as well. And this would be all in addition to what the American Rescue Funds are providing for you all as well, as far as trying to get caught up on those equipment. This is new funding, and everything that's got an asterisk, I keep mentioning this anticipated general obligation bond, it would be essentially with a source to fund those 3 pieces of equipment. Okay. In addition to that, we've got $5,000 in new Miller Building replacement tables and chairs anticipated for next year. And then on the recurring program side, we have $280,000 in for paving projects. That would be the local amount. Any community crossing dollars would be additive to that. And then it rolls over and refunds all the existing lease and bond payments for trash truck number 1, number 2, the PSG solar panels, and the existing US Bank fire trucks are all factored in there. I believe that is the last slide. I'm going to just scan over before I open up to questions. I would just end with, just saying that, the budget it's a very important document from my perspective. I think from a council perspective, I think it's one of the most important things you do, because it provides the plan and the funding for your community. As an outside consultant, a couple things that I would point to is tax rate year over year is projected to be exactly the same, and over a multi-year period of time, we saw it's actually downward trend. From a funding perspective for public safety, it's been a challenge to fund. So the reality from my side is there is not an easy button to replace that fire truck without some sort of long-term financing support. So the only way to do that would be very difficult decisions, like loss of personnel, service reduction. We are to that point. It's a matter of trying to find something else to say no to in order to put the money there. There's not, as you can see, that there's not like the reserves there's not such excess reserves that we can buy that down. And then the only other thing I would say is that I would commend you all on the growth. I think that's the most important thing. In a community where you've got 38% circuit breaker, the best way to ease that is to grow, but do it in a smart way. And I think what you all have put together here, I'm really pleased to be able to publicly say this year, this is a balanced budget that's proposed. And I think you all should be, encouraged by that. And I would just say that that didn't happen by accident. The department heads all did a lot to try to make sure that they could get to a position where they've got their aspects met, but also still keep that in line. So probably heard enough from me. I'll be happy to take any questions that you may have.
Can you explain the bond a little more? 'Cause I
Sure.
think that was hard for me to wrap my head around because it doesn't come out of the general fund obligation.
Yep.
It's an addition, so it's really the growth we've had, it's a way to capture that growth.
Yep.
But it doesn't impact the general fund by doing that.
Yep.
Where if we went to borrow money, it would come out of general fund, which we don't have.
Right. Yeah, this is kind of classic government finance at its best, right? Like if you were, running your own business, it would operate a little differently. In local government, there's that kind of normal maximum levy that you can get, and then there's the adjustments to that, the additions to that. And one of the additions to the normal max levy is debt levy. Okay, so in other words, if that debt levy is not there, it's not like you get the money and the money can be used for something else. The money only presents itself if it's in the form of debt levy. Okay, that's the kind of one major component. So the way the state has structured the laws here is that if we were to say no to the fire truck being funded from that debt levy, we still need the fire truck. So we lose that revenue source. It's gone. Now we still have to go fund the fire truck from the other dollars that we have with not that. And that's where it gets very, very challenging. Now you're talking about, appropriating cash below an operating reserve level. You're talking about reduction in staff. You're talking about a reduction in services. That is kind of where that would be to that extent. 50 grand, 100 grand is one thing. $1 million is a big number. And as you've seen, these are long-lived assets. The current one is a 30-year-old piece of equipment. So it lends itself to a long-term repayment structure. The only other thing I would say is that if we go back, if you remember, you go back in your packets, this slide. That little table to the right is what I've tried to put together as far as really outlining the different options. So if we did no, yeah, and you go to right there, yeah, perfect, John. And if we come back and I'll rate these because I know they're kind of small. In this scenario, we have a situation where every year, because the assessed value is growing lower than the levy, tax rate's going to actually go up year over year. And that's exactly what we see here. It went from 342, 345, 353. Okay? That is not good. That means that every year your taxpayers are paying more per $100 for City of Connersville services. Right? What we want to get into is a situation where it's at least flat, if not decreasing. So in 2022, 2023, 2024, there's been enough new growth where you can kind of spread that burden out on more properties, right? So when it happens is that tax rate comes down. And that's what we're seeing. It went from peaked at 353, 346, 335. And we're even projected to go, if we had no changes, it would even go down further. What we don't want to do though, and this is where I don't wear a political hat, but where there are a lot of reasons why you don't want that to go down too far, okay? And I'll give you one easy example. If you're growing twice as fast as your revenue is, you still have to police, you still have to protect fire, you still have to do those streets, but you have twice as big of a city. If you're struggling to fund those things now, how would you do it if you're same revenue but twice as big? It's not going to happen, okay? I would be doing you a disservice if I wasn't standing here saying level tax rate, okay? If you're growing or shrinking, we want to try to be a level tax rate. If we're shrinking, we don't want it to be, it would be unsustainable to tax people more and more each year, right? And it's also unsustainable if you're rapid growing to be assuming that you can do it for cheaper and cheaper and cheaper out in the future, okay? So level tax rate is the best way I can summarize that. So I know that was a mouthful, Mayor, but I hope that helps.
It's hard to understand that because it's completely different than what we're used to.
Oh, Yeah, I don't, you know, I spend every day, and I've spent every day and for the last 13 years working in this, and this is as best as I can summarize it. You know, this is nuanced stuff. This is not common sense. So my job is to try to do my best to try to make this stuff as approachable as I can. So procedurally, again, you know, adoption at the next meeting, public hearing tonight. If there's any questions you have, kind of the budget, revenues, estimates, I'm happy to take them. If there's any questions specifically about a department's request, I'll defer to the department heads just because I think they're the subject matter expert there. But otherwise, I'll make myself available. If you have any questions in between the meetings, I'm happy to take it. Otherwise, I appreciate you all doing your homework ahead of time, reviewing the recordings and those kind of things, and making yourself available. I appreciate all the questions. So that's all I have.
I'm gonna ask for council comment before I open up for public. Usually we do it the other way around, but I'll go ahead and do council questions and comments before I open up to public.
So Adam, you're saying grand total budget, black and red, we are meeting or exceeding?
Yes, and I want to qualify that just because I'm an accountant and I'm OCD by birth. Yes, on the general fund, we are projected to be, call it $2,500 in the black, which is basically 0%, but revenues minus expenses are essentially zero. So I am proud to say this proposed budget is balanced in the black for the general fund and for the levy funds for that matter.
Also, you mentioned, how we're kind of on the brink of potentially, possibly, if we're not supporting more tax increase, then you're potentially saying that we're gonna have to cut people. But yet, in this budget,
Yep.
we're talking about, in the last couple of years, we've added.
Yep, that's
So
true.
would you be recommending to stop that?
Yeah, so in this case, if you were to say no to, let's say, the appeal or the debt levy or whatever, and we still have to do the fire truck, there's about a $900 to $1.2 million red now in that general fund, okay? So then the only option would be all those new proposed positions, all of those are not $1.2 million. So we would be at a total, likely, or one of our responses would be no new positions, and we would still have likely a $500,000 to $700,000 hole to make up.
Are we gonna be looking at reoccurring funds to where we can start putting money back for vehicles?
I know that we have, the clerk treasurer's already got a pretty good program, I think, set up for seeking funds. I don't know if you want to say anything about it, but I feel like for the most part, it's working. We try to anticipate, we've sized it to where the fire department really needs about $200,000 a year, plus or minus. The challenge is, it's not really been started yet. It has
the
been,
fire.
for fire.
It has been started for all the other departments.
And the challenge with fire is that the apparatus is needed now. So even if we waited the 3 years and banked $200,000 a year, we'd still be short.
But with us coming up on a new budget year, wouldn't we at least get the ball started at some point?
Yeah, I think so. And I would say to defend the department, they're already doing sinking funds. They're just, those sinking funds aren't sufficiently sized. They need to be a little higher.
I noticed an increase in 911. Is that 50-50 on the other side as well? No, we just threw money in?
We knew there was inflation's hitting everybody, and the county manages that. We just give them the money.
Okay.
So that's not a set in any of the interlocal agreements as of yet.
Certainly appreciate what you do, Adam, to
Absolutely.
keep this clarified and help us get to where we're at. I mean, without your help, it'd be a nightmare.
I appreciate the recording first, because at least had some time to think about it and whatever.
Hey, no, I appreciate the kind words. This is a team sport. I get to be the person who gets to stand here tonight, but there's there's been a lot of folks that have put a lot of time in on this, so I appreciate it. Also, what I'm excited about is these things kind of have a compounding effect one way or the other. So where I'm a little excited is that I just feel like budgeting is somewhat of a flywheel. You got to get it kind of going, and then once we get it turning in the right way, we can get caught up. As what we were saying last year is we were behind. I mean, we just were. We had to kind of catch up a little bit, and it's no fault to anybody. It's just kind of where it's at. I think where I'm excited about this structure is now you've got the opportunity to kind of start to get that flywheel moving a little bit in a positive direction. We're starting off balanced this year. Last year we weren't, so we had to kind of make up that ground before we could even get to this.
Well, I appreciate the transparency, because there's more transparency now, and people are aware of what's going on far more. I've been on several councils, and this is most information.
I'm gonna say
we've
that
gotten
the
most
transparency is there. All you had to do was come in my office and I would
Well, but I mean it
talk to you.
verbal. I don't mean it that way.
No,
I
but
mean,
that door is still open.
Absolutely.
And I don't see anybody walking through that door asking questions. So, but
Yeah.
I meant for the public and for this, usually it was just, we passed the budget and we knew what it was, but it wasn't. And this way, the public knows too.
So one last question, is the budget that we've seen here tonight and the emails that we've sent back and forth, I know the department heads, they see one version until it goes to you. Have they seen this particular budget? And the reason I ask that is because can they sign off and say that this is what's going to get us through the year with anticipated events, especially these two, EMS, those specific events that are going to rise that we need to try to anticipate for?
I don't think it'd be fair for me to speak for them, especially not the public safety chiefs, but from my perspective, I feel like they've been good partners in this, and I feel like we are trying to represent those requests, but I'll defer to any of the department heads for that matter. Ultimately, it's their budget, not mine.
And you guys are more than welcome to come up and talk. I have no problem. Come on up.
I myself, I really like working with Adam, and I mean, I feel comfortable in my budget. Like I said, the majority of the increases you saw, were mostly contractual. We did our best to keep everything as tight as we can. Obviously, you see, regular increases probably like in utilities and things of that nature, but the issue with, coming up with a plan to replace that truck, it's just, I mean, it's a tough issue, but it's there. So coming up, with those ways of trying to, help get that replaced while still applying for the grant, that's always, we're always hopeful to get that grant. But as far as that and, him explaining that stuff, I think he does a real good job. And I enjoy working with him. He's explained a lot of things to me, but I feel comfortable in mine.
Thanks, Scott. Anybody else? Any other questions from council? I will open it up for public hearing. Public hearing is not open. Anyone from the public has anything to say? And can you see if anyone's up? I just want to make sure I'm not leaving anybody. No? No comments? No comments? No comments? You don't want to give a speech? Okay. Sorry, I always tease. Public hearing is now closed. I will entertain a motion to approve the first reading, and we will just do one reading tonight, and the final adoption will be the next meeting. So I'm going to ask for first reading tonight, pending ordinance 3906, which will be the budget.
that's wrong. It's 3096. The little sticky note's wrong. Pending ordinance.
Sorry about that.
That's all
I
right.
didn't catch that.
That's all right.
3906 on first reading.
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion, a second. Just do a roll call vote, please.
Councilman Collins.
Yes.
Councilman Warner.
Yes.
Councilman Williams Jr.
Yes.
Councilwoman Phillips.
Yes.
Councilman Robb.
Yes.
Councilman Gray.
Yes. Oh, yes, okay. Well, the first reading is approved, we will do the final reading, final adoption, gotta get that right, final adoption on the 2nd of October. Okay. Item B, I'm gonna open up a public hearing. These two kind of go hand in hand. One of the things we've done with the ARP dollars was we tried to make best use of those dollars, if that makes sense. We've got a lot of equipment needs, we knew what we had, we just tried to prioritize those needs. One of the reasons we're able to get the budget to where it is was we're taking the ARP dollars to buy all this equipment that we need that pulls it out of the budget. So there's a, you can see, there's a lot of expense here. Is this everything? Nope, but this is a good start. So the ARP dollars we were presenting tonight would be, oh shoot, let me get my paper here. I'm out of order, sorry. Would be the park equipment. These are just ARP dollars for $81,000. The DOT MVH, $157,000, and the police equipment, $13,000. The total spends for those parks was $81,000. That's not right. Yeah, I'm sorry, it was $111,000 spent. $81,000 that being ARP dollars. The police total equipment was $358,360. And the fire, I'm sorry, DOT was $350,000. So there's $600,000, $700,000+ that did not come in the budget we used ARP dollars for, along with some of the recurring funds that we use for saving equipment, different things. So that's how it was also able to present the budget where we needed to be, because we use those ARP dollars to offset some of those costs. So I'll go ahead and open up the public hearing before I open up for council questions. I'll open up a public hearing on pending ordinance 3907. Anyone from the public have anything to say? And there's no one out there still. Okay, I will close the public hearing, open up for council questions or comments.
What all was on the park equipment?
The 2 trucks, one with a snow plow and salt spreader on the park equipment.
You should have received the ARPA packet.
We sent.
I did, I
Last
just didn't
week.
remember offhand.
That's right.
Last
Yeah.
week.
I was gonna make a sarcastic comment, I decided not to. There's a lot of equipment, but theirs was just 2 trucks. What we're trying to do is get a truck, plow, salt box. Because right now they use UTVs to plow. I don't know if you have a truck plow or not. The street department usually goes through and has to open it up, but that's not priority. And then they use bag salt, which I still have to use bag salt for sidewalks and stuff, but now they can take a truck down the street department, load it up, go plow the streets, salt them, and the park can be opened up. We're not waiting on those guys to get there. But we felt we don't need one of those, but they need more trucks. So I figured we'd get 2 trucks, one with a plow and a spreader. The street, I have a truck with a plow and a salt spreader as well. And I have a backhoe and loader. We've been having our backhoe is pretty bad, and our loaders have been pretty bad. So we want to get both those replaced. The police equipment, there's a bunch. We got the cars on there, radars, the equipment to equip those, because you don't just buy a vehicle, you have to equip it for police use. We've got the box van, which we're using as a, Randy help me SWAT and emergency services around. So if there's a fire, it goes out and they use it as a staging center, which is something we need bad. Gas mask filters, we don't have gas masks, so now every car will have a gas mask. Shield tool set, I'm not going to explain that one, he knows all this stuff. SWAT helmets, SWAT comms, they have to have special comms, SWAT radio. The K9, we did have some K9 funds in there. The Spillman server is going bad, it keeps going down on us. We pay half that, which is why you don't see half the dollar amount in here. SWAT gas weapons, we don't have any gas bombs, I shouldn't say that online. We borrow other departments right now. SWAT shields, stop sticks, tasers, and printers. If you have any more detailed questions, what's some of that stuff? Chief can answer that. But that's all the equipment that we're turning in. That's a lot of money, and that's why I said we're trying to, that helped offset the budget big time. Because a lot of stuff we just don't have, and we need it bad. So I did close the public hearing. Any other council comments on that or questions?
I'd personally rather see some of this money go towards sourcing 911 employees. They're having a difficult time keeping people.
Yeah, I can't use this for 911. county has to use their ARP dollars for 911. I can only use it for internal city equipment. I can't use it for that because that's a county dispatch.
Right. Okay.
Any other questions? Okay, I'll entertain a motion. Let's see, hold on a second here. Make sure I get it right.
And it's right.
I wanted to check this time. Entertain a motion for approving a pending ordinance 3907 on first reading.
Motion.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed, same sign. Do I have a motion to suspend the rules?
Motion.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign. Do I have a motion for third and final reading?
So moved.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign. Motion carried. One thing with that, some of these numbers, we got the quotes, what it'd be, we know we're gonna get a little bit of things on trade-in, so there might be some money coming back, so that's why the overall number, once we get the quotes and the trade-in values, we know we have remainder for more.
But these numbers are also lower depending on what we already have in our sinking funds.
Right.
He's pooling all the money to be able to get replacement equipment that is falling apart under these employees.
Okay, move on down to approval pending ordinance 3908, handicap parking. Chief, you wanna come talk about that? I know it was approved through the Board of Works today, we have everything from the doctors, you've reviewed it. and everything.
That's what we were waiting on for her to get that document.
Right.
And she turned it in, so.
So we have a handicap parking spot, at
2258.
Man, I'm reading the wrong thing, 2258, too many numbers today. Adam, your accountant's killing me, I can't remember the numbers. At 2258 Indiana Avenue, I have a motion to approve that on first reading.
So moved.
I have a motion and a second, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign. I have a motion to suspend the rules.
Motion.
I
Second.
have a motion and a second, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign. Do I have a motion for a third and final reading?
Same.
I have a motion and a second, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign. Motion carried. Okay, approval of pending ordinance 3909, fire transfer, Rosemary.
Pending ordinance 3909 is a transfer within the fire department, moving $5,000 from medical exams to gasoline.
Any questions?
Is this gonna affect any of the employees?
No.
Any other questions? I have a motion for pending ordinance 3909 on first reading.
Motion.
Second.
I have a motion second, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed, same sign. I have a motion to suspend the rules.
So moved.
I have a motion and a second, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign. I have a motion for a third and final reading.
So moved.
I have a motion and a second, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign. Motion carried. Item E, we can do,
We can do E and F together, yes.
Okay.
And just to clarify on item B, or no, A, the mayor was correct, it was pending ordinance
3906.
3906. Sorry about that.
No problem.
Resolution 2023-77 is a resolution to reimburse $1,500 into fire instructions. Resolution 2023-78 is a resolution to reimburse $400 into police telephone. Resolution 2023-79 is a resolution to reimburse $150 into DOT vehicle repair. Resolution 2023-80 is a resolution to reimburse $400 into police telephone. Resolution 2023-81 is a resolution to transfer $244,618.91 from Apex Police into Police Non-Reverting Vehicle and Equipment, the sinking fund. Resolution 2023-82 is a resolution to transfer $75,906.90 from Apex Fire into the Fire Non-Reverting Vehicle Equipment, the sinking fund.
I have a A motion for approve resolutions 2023-77 through 82.
So moved.
Have a motion second. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed, same sign. Motion carried. Move on down to department reports. Director of Housing. You're up first.
Good evening. For the month of August, we had 11 hours, 30 minutes of meeting production, 11 hours, 18 minutes of original production, and I included something a little different on this month's report. Included our YouTube analytics. So I just kind of broke them down to make it really simplified. There's an awful lot of data in there. But we had 7,656 views for the month, which accumulated to 1,034 hours of viewing, which is very good. We have 3,177 subscribers. That is, by the way, just on the YouTube channel. That's not cable subscribers or cable views. So this is in addition to that. Top content for the month, CHS football versus Franklin County. We did the At the Fair program where we interviewed 4-H kids, and that was very popular. And then the school board meeting on August 8th where they were discussing what to do with buildings and things like that. So it was very popular. Any questions? Thank you.
Thank you.
Chief Harden.
Good evening. I'll try to be short. There's some glassy eyes, so you've got a lot of information to look over tonight. So you should have a copy of my monthly report. We had a total of 354 calls for August, which is that's 13 over where we were at for 2022. So our year to date is 2,591. You can see my staffing report. I do have one person off on workman's comp. You can see my fuel usage. There is going to be a new line added next month where there's a few of the departments that are eligible for excise fuel tax rebates. Stone Municipal, I'm assuming your wife is what I'm assuming, has got us caught up because we could go back 3 years. As of July 1st, she turned it over to the department heads that can do that. So for August, we're getting a refund of $282, and for July, $282. For August, $255. So I'll add a line just for everyone's FYI. You can see our fair recap, total hours that we spent covering fair events. August, we started back with our audit and review, our monthly education sessions with our medical director, Dr. Kraft. She'd been on maternity leave, so we kind of had a little hiatus there the first part of the year. So we're back at that. We're going to have another one later this week. Does anybody have any questions on anything?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Superintendent Steele.
Good evening. So I just want to report on some programs that are coming up the next couple months. We have Community Day of Sharing. I've been working all year with that group, and we have been planning for this day, which is going to be held on October 4th. And there's many different locations that will be participating, but we are planning on doing most of our work at 2nd Street Park. And so we have a fence going up. I've also been in contact with the Career Center, the construction department, and they would like to come out. He's hoping for the entire day. He'll bring both of his classes out, and they're going to do a lot of work for us. And hopefully we will be able to get the open air shelter put up by using his class to do that. So we have a lot going on over there in the next couple months coming up, and Community Day of Sharing is going to be a huge benefit for us to use that day. The Renaissance Fair and Highland Games are coming up on October 12th. And we're still taking sign-ups for anyone that wants to participate in the Highland Games, and anyone that wants to participate. BAM Fitness is giving us a open gym free of use for anyone that signs up through us. to participate in the Highland Games at the Renaissance Festival. So that's a great partnership that we have with them. And so that's going on right now, and you can register through us at the Parks Department. Trunk or Treat is coming up. This is going to be a first responders trunk or treat, partnering with the Parks Department, and we have 20 signed up so far, and we're looking for more to sign up. We'd love to fill the park up with trunk or treaters, or trunks, and passing out candy. So anybody that wants to participate can call the Parks Department. They can also go onto our Facebook page and look for the flyer and scan the QR code with their camera and sign up that way as well. It's just a quick questionnaire online that they can fill out. The park is, we've been talking about this all year, Christmas in the park. We are still taking signups. Everyone seems to be getting really excited about that. We're gonna have lots of different Christmas displays throughout the park. We're also going to be offering Christmas trees. So we've had a few requests if they could give a little bit of money instead of doing a Christmas display. They would like to give money in memory of someone, and so we're going to do a Christmas tree, and we'll put that in the park lit up in memory of someone's family member if they choose to do that. That would be a cost of $50 to help with the tree lighting of that. The rest of the cost, there is not a cost to participate in bringing a Christmas lights display to the park. So we just want to make it a great event for people who come into town to drive through the park. I know there's a lot going on downtown with the train and the Winter Wonderland, and so we want to have people also be able to participate at the park as well and drive through. So that's going to be a great event. Registrations are still open, and we would love to fill the park up. Girls basketball registrations are going on currently through the end of the month, and the basketball games will begin at the end of October. Fall soccer started at the end of August, beginning of September, and those are going really well. And then I just have down at the bottom some updated events. The pickleball tournament was held this weekend, and it was a great event. Everyone came out, and everyone that participated, a few of them came in today and said how much they enjoyed it. So that went over really well. Community Day of Sharing is October 4th. Renaissance Festival and Highland Games is October 12th from 4 to 9. We will be showing a movie after the event, and so we're hoping that people will stick around for the movie in the park. And then the first responders trunk or treat is October 30th. That will be from 5 to 7. And then Christmas in the park, I have down December 4th, but I do need to change that date. It will possibly be December 7th, but I will get back to everyone on that. We will have Mr. and Mrs. Claus there, and we will fill the Miller building with different vendors and booths for people to walk around and do Christmas activities. And then we'll have the lights display on and some other great things going on that night too. So
You might mention your partnership with BAM for the Renaissance. You mentioned that today at the Board of Works.
Oh, yes. So if you sign up and register through the Parks Department to participate in the Highland Games, then you can go to BAM Fitness to their open gym and do strength training with them at no cost to prepare for the Highland Games. Right. And they've been working on getting the things that we're going to use at the Highland Games. They have them at their facility to practice with. And so that's currently they have those available, and you just have to sign up with us first and then go over to BAM Fitness and work out. Any other questions?
You looked into that disc golf? Is that what it is that you have up there?
We do, yes.
Mm-hmm. Has anybody contacted you in reference to, I guess there was a car show there, and apparently they set the cars up in line with one of the disc golf routes, whatever you call it.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
I guess their concern is if they have another car show or event, if you might move them someplace where there's not the, whatever they call those.
Yeah, the baskets, we don't
Baskets, yeah.
have the option of moving them. We could
No,
We could
I'm
take them
talking
out,
about-
but they're
I'm talking about the
planted in the
events.
ground. Oh, well,
The
they
event-
probably
They
had
could
that
just
event
suspend
around the pavilion, and we do have some baskets around the pavilion.
They say that the events were stationed in the line of the baskets, so.
It might be better just to maybe suspend that for the day of the event.
So, you
Because
know,
it'd be hard to move it to another.
and I don't know if you could move the event like over by the pool and, you know. it's-
Well, that's not our event. That's when they just call and they want to rent the pavilion or something.
Okay,
That's someone else's event. That was not our event. The car show wasn't.
so they
That
rented a
was someone
facility
else's.
which was in line of
They did,
the baskets. Is that right?
yes. Because the baskets are spread out throughout the entire park.
Right.
And they're right in the middle of everything.
Yeah.
They
Yeah,
are in the
they are.
middle of everything. And, I mean, we can let the events that are being held know that there's, there's baskets around throughout the park. It would be hard to, tell people that they can't come play disc golf. That would be difficult unless we put signs up saying that there's an event going on, and just to be cautious around the pavilion.
Yeah.
But I know that they did take they had a large car show that day, if it's the same car show that we're talking about.
Probably. I'm just,
Mhm.
is there a way that, I'm sure this is gonna be difficult, to move the baskets?
We cannot move the baskets, they are
Concrete.
cemented into the ground. So,
I was just trying to keep them out of the event area, so to speak, where you would rent a particular
yeah.
facility for that.
The only way to make changes is to change the course of the
Right.
disc golf.
Right.
Which we are potentially looking into for next year, but it's, we're working with someone to design a new course for us.
Okay.
I'm not sure that we have enough space to move all of them away from the pavilion, because that's a large area that we utilize for the disc golf. Because we have we can use it for longer holes there. And so, we will do our best to move them away, but I don't know that we can move all of them away from that area.
Well, it was brought to my attention that, they was playing this disc golf and then they ran up on this car show. I didn't realize that they rented a particular building for
Yeah.
that particular event
Mhm.
and not even thinking about it. So that clarified that on my part, so if I get contacted again,
Yeah, we've had a few car shows that have rented the pavilion this year.
Right.
And then if they choose to use the grass area to park the cars in, that's their choice as far as where they want to park
So you don't,
everything.
there's no specifications where they can park cars and that kind of stuff.
No.
The other question I have is the bridge. People keep asking about the bridge.
Yes. I had a conversation 2 weeks ago with the gentleman who is the contractor for the bridge, and we've had to make a few adjustments on.
Let me answer this.
I will. Go ahead.
Well, a lot of it, you get people all the time saying, well, we had to source the wood, and that slowed it down. But I think you can't go to the lumber and get it. It's special wood. It's only one variety of species they use. He explained it to me, and it comes from Michigan. You don't even have it here. So it took a long time to source that. Then we started digging the foundations. We had Tim come in and redesign the foundations, because what they found was a little different, so they redesigned the foundations. So all that has just delayed it. So now we're waiting on the concrete guys to get back. I think Tim's done with the design and the foundations. Waiting on concrete guys. In the meantime, obviously they gotta go do other jobs, so we're waiting on the price to come back. They'll come back, and then we're still engaging that process.
So do they have an end time on this?
No, there was no end time established.
To piggyback on that, if there is a time frame, can you let people know? Because I've been getting the same questions. Just-
On the car show?
No, on the
Timeframe.
the updates of the bridge.
Oh, I'm
So
sorry, I
when-
was still on the
when
car
those-
show.
When those become available, try to make the public aware, because I think that's
I definitely can.
dozen phone calls about it in 2 months or so.
Yeah. There just hasn't, unfortunately, been a lot of work going on in the last couple months.
Right, and if that's the case,
Because
then
of
maybe
waiting on those
say
few things.
we're at a
Mhm.
stall and this is
Sure.
why, or something like
We're,
that.
we're
Yeah.
trying to establish a timeline. We actually reached out today, trying to get a timeline established.
Right, I think the public just wants to know that too, so. One thing I had a question about is the help grant. Where are we at on progressing with that? Because I think we're about due, aren't we, to discuss that
Okra,
again?
we have a meeting again with Okra. They came back and basically said, we want you to start here. And they want to start at Office Park and nothing else for now. So they want us to do Office Park first and then move on to the skate park, and that's all they want to do right now. But we actually want to do all the projects together, River's Edge, skate park, and that, and they said no. They want to do just that first before they do anything else. It's a little tricky when you get CDBG dollars. There's not much flexibility with CDBG dollars. It's very difficult, so they're having a lot of problems with inflationary costs and everything else in some of the other communities. Actually, we're the only community ready to go. There's really no other community ready to run. We're ready to run. And I think they're just making them nervous. They said, start here. Now, it's gonna make it harder on our end, because now we gotta do engineering twice instead of once. So it's gonna inflate the cost, but they're in control of that.
Last thing is, Mayor, I think it would be nice for the, your Halloween stuff, your candy and stuff, first responders, if the chiefs would be available for that. I think Chief Bolos really wants to do it. It would be nice for the community to see their chiefs out passing out candy. I think it'd be fantastic.
See you in the Highland games
Okay, I'll write
Also
those
no on
names
that
down.
I'm gonna enroll you in the pole throwing.
I think
you
the
seen
gauntlet
that?
has
Let's
been
go.
thrown.
You won't be walking next time.
Let's
you
go.
come back.
Let's find out.
Challenge.
Any other questions?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Speaking of Chief Jones, come on up. Of course, he didn't throw you in the bus. He just went for polos.
Good evening. All right, the monthly report for the Connersville Fire Department for August. We'll start off with the overtime. We had a total of $2,249.57 in overtime. The FLSA portion of that was $1,869.66. The actual manpower shortage of that was only $379.91. Over to the right, you can see the total for the year is $31,386.73. We're having a really good year compared to the last 2 years as far as overtime goes. Any questions on the overtime? Move on down to fuel usage. For August, we used 422 gallons of fuel for a cost of $1,809.23. Following that, you'll see a total for our incidents. For August, we had a total of 201 incidents. 34 of those were fire-related. 154 of those were EMS-related, and we had 13 auto accidents. Next, we'll have our training hours. We had a total of 104 training hours for August. We were involved in several classes, as I'll talk about later, so that's why you see that number increased. 78 hours was fire training, 26 hours was EMS training. Had a total of 14 inspections for the month, and we didn't have any fire investigation hours. You see below, I listed a few things we had going on. We had one class that we did do, started in July, ran into through August, a driver-operator class that a lot of the guys attended. That was a local class that we did spend a lot of time on. Several of our instructor twos taught the class. We had one of our guys teach each shift. We currently have a rope rescue technician class. I have 12 of our members that are taking that class. They will be certified as a rope rescue technician. It's a really good class. We will be posting some pictures of that soon. I got permission from the owners of the old Vistion building to go up there. They were actually up there with the ladder truck today, set up on the roof, had high lines, and The guys all have to go through certain scenarios to show that they're capable of, hanging from a rope, rescuing somebody else. So it's been a really good class. And then following that, we did get awarded $1,500 to purchase the training dummy, which is being used for this class. That was one of the reasons that I applied for that grant, because we knew we had this class coming up. So that was the Fayette Community Foundation awarded us $1,500, so we're very appreciative of that. We still have yet to post pictures of that. They would like to see some pictures of us using it, so we will be posting those here soon. Last but not least, for those who haven't seen on Facebook, we are taking applications this weekend, next week. So hopefully we get a lot of applicants to create the pool. If possible, if we have an opening next year, then we can select from that pool. So that's all I have. Any questions?
Where do you operate your drivers at? Driver training?
Obviously, there's a lot of classroom material also, but when we do the driving portion of it, we've used the high school parking lot before.
Oh, yeah?
Or we used the high school parking lot. We've used the airport in years past, and then we've also done it in, which is going to be the new Reed location, but the old Kmart parking lot. So we've done it in several locations before.
Those are big enough for...
To do the scenarios that we need to do. Yeah, there's several scenarios. There's figure eight driving, lane changing, alley docking. There's several things that they have to do to pass to get certification for that. But yeah, there's enough room in those parking lots.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Scott?
Thank you.
Chief Phillips.
Good evening. Good evening. All right, so starting off with the monthlies, our overtime is still above 9,000. It's still is a vacation calls and personal days is the cause of those. And I'm also down 2 officers at the moment. One's at Ilea and I have one on the light duty. Gallons of fuel, just over 2,000 gallons of fuel. For our incident reports, we're up a little more than last month on accidents, 58 total accidents with 1,102 total calls for the month of August. Any questions on those totals? All right, so training hours, we have 52 K-9 training hours last month, 97 hours of department training. Our detectives in August took in 11 new cases. 2 are left open. Out of those, they made 2 arrests, and 9 of those were closed. They also joined the Internet Crimes Against Children Task Force. They are led by the state police. So it's statewide, so we can get information statewide. I think it's a good thing for us to be a part of. Drugs, we took in 5 grams marijuana, 11 of heroin, fentanyl, 5 of meth, 4 grams of cocaine, 58 grams of mushrooms, 30 needles, 11 items of paraphernalia, and 4 guns are seized. We have a total of 16 drug incidents. 3 of those were K-9 indications. And earlier today, for the Board of Works, just to keep everybody informed, I asked permission to start a hiring process for ourselves also for any anticipation in 2024. Also, our new ordinance enforcer is Randy Wolf. He started last Monday, so he's just getting going, so we got to be patient with him for a little bit to get caught up. So, Officer Smith, who we have in Ilea, is in his 4th week. So that's the update we have. Any questions on any monthly?
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Director Cole.
been a long meeting, I'll try to limit this to 30, 40 minutes. But, just a
Think you
couple
threw
quick
him under the
things.
bus.
I'll move quickly.
Just don't back up.
Hey, John, did you get those pictures by any chance?
Working on it.
I'll just quickly go through these as he scrolls through them. This is the compost site. I just wanted to show you how much ground we've been gaining down there by filling that hole in. Tony's been doing a pretty good job of organizing it. These are pictures of the headworks. You can see that we're...
Lost him, John.
It's a nice picture.
Well, that was the headwork.
So is it gone now?
You
There
can
we
see
go.
that it's, I was telling the Board of Works today that the dewatering portion of the project is basically over. There may be just very shallow dewatering, but everything now is starting to build above ground. So, with all the dewatering I told you about earlier, we did not ever detect any chemicals in our dewatering, so we were able to keep everything safe. But you can see how quick that's happening. It's a pretty massive sized building. Just a few pictures there. That is our cooling loop, and finally after about, let's see, it was a 2017 project when we redid our digesters. That is the last piece that'll go in one of those. And that project will finally be finished. That is the inside of one of the digesters, and that's all the air pods. We've been repairing all those, getting ready for installation of the new cooling loop. Just a few random pictures. These pictures are just some random areas that I took pictures of that we just completed the paving. The striping will be done hopefully in the next week or so. A lot of different areas that we got. This is up on, I think we're getting up on 10th Street Hill. You can see Omer did a great job. I thought their paving was great this time. Country Club. They had to put about 2.5 inches on that road. It was just literally starting to fall apart. So is that all of it? Looks like, thank you.
The only caveat will be Western explaining why we had to wait on that.
On which one?
When they come back to do
Preservation.
preservation work on Western.
Yeah, we just had, so the one thing we have left to finish, all the Western Avenue work has been done as far as crack sealing, preparation. They have to wait for that to set and the patching for about 30 days. Then they'll come back and put the final micro seal coat, which is something a little bit similar to a driveway sealer. It's thick, it's got a little aggregate in it, but it's nothing like chip and seal. It's not like they dump tar on the road and then throw rocks on it. It's all mixed together. When it lays down, it lays almost like asphalt.
Yeah, they use a machine that looks just like a paver.
Yeah. I think there's just no doubt that the crack sealing that was done to that road is going to buy us quite a bit of time, I hope. I mean, we know it will. It's just a matter of how much time it'll buy us. So, you can see we've been working on the downtown sidewalks. I just want to praise everybody that's been working together down there. Aaron and I were on the phone while we were talking and emailing with the lady at the plant supply that we're buying all the plants from, and we'll be installing those. I was explaining, Mary asked me to explain today that the reason for the plants, we'll just make, we poured these walkthroughs in concrete, and now you'll have areas where you'll be sort of funneled to walk through, and then there will be plants everywhere else so you can't walk through it. It'll just tell people, don't walk through there, it's dangerous.
What is the reason why? Explain the reason why we couldn't put, so we wanted to fill the whole thing in, we couldn't do that. Why the walkthroughs are where they are.
So when we did that project, you had, probably explained this to you way more times than you want to hear again, but the grade of the stoops and the doorways changes on all those old buildings, and we had to, you're only allowed a 2% grade in the sidewalk. So the mulch strip, or whatever you guys want, anybody wants to call it, was put in to adjust those grades. It was also put in to allow drainage off the buildings, because if you notice, most of those buildings just have, you know, drains that dump down right onto the sidewalk, and it's got to have a place to go. So those, bad as people dislike them or whatever. I think that they will look so nice when we get all these plants in, and it'll be a lot more palatable to people, so. I wanted to let everybody know quickly, we're doing a project on the water tank up on Elephant Hill for the next month or so. You're gonna have sort of weird pressure fluctuations up there. We're cleaning and inspecting that tank. So if you live on EV Drive and Flint Drive, and maybe that should, maybe Elephant Hill just a little bit, you might have a little weird pressure. Hopefully 3 to 4 weeks we'll have all that finished. One last thing, when we were talking about the budget, the city engineer position came up, and I just wanted to say one little thing about that. And if anybody has any questions about where they want to talk about in more detail, I'd love to tell you about it. But this city engineer, at this point, all of these positions that are proposed are important. City government shrunk. You know, in 2006, 7, 8, we had to because of Istion and different things, and now we're in a position to grow again. And for example, right now, I bet I spend 25–30% of my time working with Nova Chemical, Phoenix, on this building and on these projects. In different development over the last year, it's at least a third of my time. And honestly, I'm not that great at it. I'm just barely functioning in the role. We need to do this if we're going to keep things going and continue to grow. If we don't have that type of position, we're going to be flat, because somebody has got to spend the time with these people when they're developing. And you know, I've been honestly just sort of faking it. You know, we funnel things to other engineering firms. Basically, I try to we work with Westlers on infrastructure things and street things, and we're just getting by. And we got away with it for a long time because nothing was happening. But now now things are happening, and we got to do something about it. So it's my opinion, but I wanted to let you hear it. So that's it.
Thank you.
Brad,
Thank you.
Brad, you're not gonna get away that easy. You got painting in a couple places. What are you referring to on
I'm
that?
not sure. I read that on the report this afternoon. I'm not sure what it was. Yeah, I see it on the report. I'm just not sure what it was. Bonnie wrote that on there. I'll check on it and let you know.
So you don't know what we're painting?
What it says on that report, I can't specifically identify, but I'll get back to you.
Okay. The other question I have, I take it we're not gonna do anything with the storm sewer on Vine Street. Now, is that gonna be in the works sometime
So
in the near future? Because it's been like 70-year problem.
70. So I've been working with NDOT. We went over there and looked at it 3 or 4 times. I think that we've identified that the problem, so I even showed the mayor. Somebody downsized the end of the pipe where it flows into a little swell that goes into the river. Somebody downsized it from, what was that, like a 24 down to 15 or something?
Yeah.
And I think that's what's causing that to obstruct. So I've been working with NDOT, and Brock is trying to get a project together to get that section from Vine Street to the river upsized, back up to its full size. We think that, you know, just imagine holding your hand over, you know, a hose.
I get
So I
the
think that's
drift
what's
of it.
happening.
I just wondered, you know, what time are we looking at on that?
Yeah.
That's a state project, not ours.
It's
Actually, it's a
NDOT's.
city problem.
It's
It's
a
state
city.
law. And not only that, we pay dollars for storm sewer, and that's part of the storm sewer.
Well, it's a state
system.
highway.
State highway.
It's a state highway, we only have certain rights to do things on it. But I have been working with them and talking to them, and I've been talking through it with the resident there where the water backs up, and I understand how it's a problem for her. So we're trying to get something done with it, but we can't dig up that road and put a new line in.
No, now they just paved it, so.
We couldn't have before they paid.
So you don't know approximately when they might do that?
No, I think we, just over the last month or so, figured out what we think the problem is. So he's taken it to his bosses, and he thinks he can make a project happen.
On your headworks, is there an end time on those?
I think about a year from now, it'll be like all the pumps and everything will be installed and they'll be finishing up. Yeah.
Thank you.
Any old business?
I have two things. First off, I want to clarify a statement that I made earlier. The statement that I made about transparency was in no way intended to be a criticism of the clerk's office. What I meant was the transparency to the public. Since Adam's been here, it's been a lot more information for the public to hear about the budgets. That was no way, in any way, shape, or form, to have been a criticism of the clerk's office. Second, I have two council appointments. I kind of apologize for this because I thought we voted on these and evidently we don't. If you guys want to vote on these, we can. It would be a council appointment for the Urban Enterprise Association. I'd like to suggest Ralph Heimlich as an appointment to that board. He did visit our last meeting and he's willing to accept that post. And for the Redevelopment Commission, Victor Reedman, who is
Jeff's son.
Jim Reedman's grandson, Jeff's son, yes. And I think they would both be very good in those positions. If anybody would like to have a vote or whatever, would not insult me at all.
Jeff, is there an issue? Do we need to have a vote, or?
No,
We've never
No,
voted
you
on it.
don't.
We don't normally vote on
You
it.
all disagree.
But I usually, I mean, if I had known we didn't vote, I thought we voted.
Took us 6 months to find.
To find somebody,
It's hard
yeah.
to find people that can serve.
Yeah,
It really
and if
is.
I actually thought we voted on it, but we don't. And I would have advised you beforehand. Of course, both these just came up on, what, Friday?
I'm sorry.
Both of these just came up on Thursday.
They confirmed, yes.
Thursday, Friday, so I apologize for not letting you know ahead of time, but that's my old business.
Any other old business? Miscellaneous business. I do want to talk about the Tri-State Food Truck Challenge coming on the 30th. So far, we're around 68, 69 trucks somewhere in that area. It keeps changing, some back out, more keep adding from 6 states. We got 3 bands, 1 local band, 1 regionally local band from Richmond, and then 1 bigger band who's getting a lot of recognition, not just almost nationally, but they are playing everywhere. That goes from 12 to 9-ish, somewhere around there. We are having a fly-in as well. The airport got the flying club, and so we're anticipating quite a few planes flying in that day. Wish TV 8 has done an interview on it, and in Indiana, which is the state tourism, has taken it and is marketing it for us as well. So everyone across the state is super excited. Every time I go to a mayor's conference or something, I'm always talking about it. So we got a lot of people coming in. We got billboards, 1 in Ohio, 2 in Indiana. And we're just marketing this thing as hard as possible, and it's going to be a good event. I'll be honest, I'm pretty nervous about it. A lot of people coming in, and we need a lot of volunteers. If you want to volunteer, come on out. It takes a lot of people to put these events on. The more people, the better. So come on down, and we'll have some fun together. But I'm excited about that. So put that on your calendars for the 30th this month. Any other miscellaneous business? Anybody from the public have anything to say? Still don't want to give a speech? I tried, okay. I'll take a motion for adjournment.
So moved.
Second.
Have a motion second, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign. Have a good evening.